Wow. Well, thank you all for this evening so far. I hope I don't mess it up. So I want to talk about something that Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddha, in all Buddhist teachings, is something that's called suchness. And what sparked this was that last Sunday, during our sharing time, Alex asked a question at the very end. And I said, well, that deserves a whole Dharma talk. And then because Tai Z couldn't be here, well, there you go. So I started thinking about that. I gave an answer last week that was probably a short version that's okay. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that many of the teachings that really have kind of landed in my heart are teachings about this very subject. And they are all connected. They all fit together, which doesn't surprise me and shouldn't surprise any of us, because if you take any of the Buddhist teachings and go with it and, you know, look at other teachings, you'll see how they are connected. But let's look at some of the things that were on my mind and some of the things that I realized I wanted to share. I will be using this little book, Your True Home, The Everyday Wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh. We read from this book often during noon meditation. It's an excellent little book. It contains excerpts from many of Thai's books, and there's 365 of them, so you could actually read one a day. And of course, it doesn't matter which one you read, because they're all really, really wonderful. So the question that I want to try to answer tonight, or at least point to some answers, is the question of what is real, what is true. The first teaching that I think about when I think of that is this one phrase: everything changes, everything's connected, pay attention. I know some of you have heard me say that before, and you may hear echoes of other talks in this one, but somehow they all, I think, they all come together and make a more cohesive understanding. So during this talk, I'm going to offer some ways in which we can notice how things change, how they're connected, and how that makes truth, how that makes reality. So we're going to look at these three teachings, and the first one is suchness. So let me read what Thai says about suchness. The word suchness describes reality as it is. We might be able to just stop there, but he explains. Concepts and ideas are incapable of expressing reality as it is. Nirvana, the ultimate reality, cannot be described because it is free of all concepts and ideas. Nirvana is the extinction of all concepts. There is a little more that I'd like to read, just one more paragraph. Most of our suffering arises from our ideas and concepts. If you're able to free yourself from these concepts, anxiety and fear will disappear. Nirvana, the ultimate reality, or God, is of the nature of no birth and no death. It is total freedom. So let's just kind of hone in on that idea that suchness is a way of experiencing things without concepts, without ideas and notions. That's not something I had ever really thought about, but it makes sense to me because I've had ideas and notions that absolutely morphed into something else as I tried to initiate it. Have you ever had that happen? Or sometimes things that I had a concept about proved to be totally wrong. It's very incorrect. So concepts and notions are challenging. We all have them. We all employ them, but they can be very misleading. So we're going to talk a little more about this notion of notions and concepts and ideas. And I wanted to share with you something from the 14 mindfulness trainings, which is what the vow that I took included these 14 when I became a member of the Order of Inner Being. So it's going to read a couple of sentences. This is from the first mindfulness training, which is called openness. He says, we are determined not to be idolatrous about or bound to any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones. And then in the second mindfulness training, which is called non-attachment to views, we are aware that the knowledge we presently possess is not changeless, absolute truth. Insight is revealed through the practice of compassionate listening and deep looking, and letting go of notions rather than through the accumulation of intellectual knowledge. Here's a good sentence about truth. Truth is found in life, and we will observe life within and around us in every moment, ready to learn throughout our lives. There are other instances in these 14 trainings that mention something about notions, concepts, judgments, attachments, all of those kinds of things, which is exactly what we are doing our best to release. So another example of that is found in one of the readings from this book again. It's called "The Fire Consumes the Match." I loved that when I first heard that title, and even after I read it, I've got, but it never really sunk in, never really made sense to me. In a way, it made sense, but I couldn't really explain it. The fire consumes the match. This is how Thich talks about it. The teachings of impermanence and non-self are tools you need to work with, but you should not get caught in them. If you do, impermanence becomes just another concept, and so does non-self. These kinds of concepts are exactly what the Buddha said we should get rid of. I thought about bringing a match and burning it so you can actually see, but maybe you could try that at home. But just imagine, you've all probably been at a bonfire and the wood catches on fire and the wood actually becomes something else. The fire consumes the wood and it becomes ash. So, and it becomes smoke. So it's really not possible to latch on to any one particular concept or label. That is where we get caught. That's where we get in trouble. It's when we decide oh, this is the way it is. This is what it is, and name it, label it. We have a real strong tendency to label things. But this little sentence, the fire consumed the match, is a very definite part of this notion, this idea of getting rid of ideas, the thought of getting rid of ideas and concepts. Then here's another quote that you've all heard me say probably. When conditions are sufficient, things manifest. When conditions are not sufficient, things do not manifest. When things do not manifest, they are waiting for conditions to be sufficient. Going back to the match, if there's no match, there's no fire. The condition of the match has to be there in order for the fire to be. I'm thinking now that it's Thanksgiving and cooking and all of that sort of thing, I'm thinking about making a pie. In particular, I want to make a pumpkin pie. But if I don't have any pumpkin, I cannot make a pumpkin pie. So that's part of the condition that needs to be there in order for me to make the pie. You can see examples of that in your daily life. Conditions have to be sufficient in order for things to manifest. Another example, just today before I came here, my husband and I were talking about some very slight remodeling that we want to do in the bathroom. And so I had an idea of what I wanted, and George had an idea of what he wanted. And so as we talked about it, we discovered that neither of our ideas was kind of right for manifesting. And so we had to compromise. We came together and created a new plan. Now, when we start to initiate this plan, who knows if it will go like we think, but the conditions for that plan, which meant the thought and his idea and my idea, the conditions had to be sufficient for us to come up with this new plan. And then we'll see how it turns out, because it's useless to get attached to how it's going to turn out. A very important thing for us to remember in dealing with this non-attachment, realizing suchness and the conditions sufficient to manifest and that sort of thing. The important to remember is that we actually exist, we live in two realities. We live in this historical reality or dimension, and we exist in the ultimate reality or dimension. So in the historical reality, this is this life where it's full of duality and opinions and labels and ideas and notions, but it's real. It is real. It's just a part of this historical reality. There's a story in one of Thay's books. Actually, it's when he's explaining his version of the new insight that brings us to the other shore, the new Heart Sutra. He's explaining why he changed some things. And his story is about a monk who asked a novice to, did he understand the Heart Sutra? And the novice said, yes, I do. And so the monk kind of questioned a little bit more. And so the novice said the part in that old version that says no eyes, no nose, no mouth, no everything. And so the monk said, come here. So he reached up and he twisted the novice's nose really hard. And the kid said, oh, yikes. Why did you do that? And he said, well, You said you have no nose.
I like that stuff.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, so we have a nose, and it's real. We have a body, and it's real. In this ultimate dimension, in the ultimate dimension, those things are not necessary. They're not essential. But in this reality, this historical reality, they are essential. Now, the challenge is to be real, to be present in this reality at the same time that we remember there's more to it. That we are also this other dimension. We have dual citizenship in the historical dimension and in the ultimate dimension. You don't have to do anything to get there. You're already present. And that's the reason we do all this mindfulness work and meditation, so that we can bring our minds into the present moment, which helps us get in touch with that realization of the ultimate reality. And then we can begin to let go of attachments and labels and notions. Labeling, have you ever noticed that labeling tends to limit other possibilities? In one of these that I read today, maybe I have it on the list to read. I probably shouldn't tell you this because Ty says it's so much better than I do. It's in this little thing called Your True Self. Let me get there. Yeah. Your true self. So now we're back to what is true. When we look deeply into our own nature, we can get in touch with its ultimate reality. This ultimate nature is free of birth, free of death, free of any notions such as high, low, this, that, and so forth. In Buddhism, we call this nirvana or suchness. Nirvana is the extinction of all concepts, such as existence, non-existence, death, and birth. You have this dimension called the ultimate within you. In fact, you are free from birth and from death, free from existence and from non-existence. Your true nature is the nature of nirvana. If you are from the Christian tradition, you could say that this ultimate dimension is God. The kingdom of God is free from birth and death, free from high and low, free from existence and non-existence. Now that's pretty heavy reading. And so I want to caution not to get too caught up in trying to analyze something, like analyze this particular reading, but just to kind of find what for you is the kernel. For me, that kernel is that if we look deeply into our true nature, we get in touch with this ultimate reality. And then all of these other realizations, insights can follow. So I want to leave you with one more reading. This one is called The True Teacher in You. The capacity to be enlightened isn't something that someone else can offer to you. A teacher can only help you to remove the non-enlightened elements in you so that enlightenment can be revealed. If you have confidence that beauty, goodness, and the true teacher in you, and if you take refuge in them, You will practice in a way that reveals these qualities more clearly every day. So the truth is within us. The truth is in the ultimate dimension, which we have access to. And there is a reality in both the historical and the ultimate dimension. So it's real that we suffer. It's real that we're happy. It's real that we love. And there are many of these qualities that we have actually help us to get in touch with that true teacher within ourselves and to recognize the ultimate reality, the true nature within everybody else as well. So all of these teachings point to the truth. Remember, we can't even get attached to the teachings. They're just pointing, like the finger pointing at the moon. They're just guiding, like the North Star. They're meant to be used as long as we need them, and then released when we're ready to, or when we're able to see a deeper truth. As we were told in the 14 mindfulness trainings, not bound to any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones, and not attached to any particular views, any particular way of being, except to be present. Thank you for listening. I know I covered a lot of territory, but I hope that it made sense. And I wonder if you have any